Hey, welcome everyone. Today, more than ever, the world needs voices that spark change, ignite hope, and drive transformation. Change doesn't happen in isolation. It happens when individuals choose to step forward, speak up, and take bold action. Whether you're leading a global movement or making a difference in your own community, your voice has power. In this podcast, we aim to amplify those voices, share the journeys of resilient change makers, and inspire each of you to recognize your potential to impact the world. Let's create a ripple effect together. Welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host, Al Richards, and today we are doing a special show. My guest the other day had to reschedule due to an emergency that had happened in his family. So I reached out to my good buddy, Joseph Valentine. Joe, thank you for taking time to spend it with me here on a beautiful Sunday morning here in Salt Lake City. Just greatly appreciate it. You and I was talking, I don't know, probably about a month ago about doing another show talking about learned behavior. You have a choice. So that's actually what we're going to title the show about today. And you and I have talked about this individually quite a few times about how we can all learn from our past, whether it's mistakes or even things that wasn't that didn't turn out to be a mistake, but what we can learn from it, and also what we choose to decide which direction we can go.
Right. Yeah, I'm excited, man. Thank you for having me, and I'm grateful to be here on the show with you as always. And yeah, we have a lot of in-depth talk, so let's see if we could recount this one pretty good, right? Learned
Yeah.
behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do, because in some of our conversations in which, oh shit, I wish we had recorded this, because man, we got into some really deep stuff that really has helped both of us in our lives as we've been on this long journey that, with all the shit we've gone through.
Yeah, for sure. And I know there's so many times in life that we're having just this deep moment in this conversation that we wish we could share with the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we get an opportunity today.
We do. Yeah, this is why we do what we do, right, my friend?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's crazy because, I have really worked hard in studying myself these past 16 years, and especially here in the past year, and even more so the past 5, 6 months of stuff that I've been going through, and just really evaluating me and going, okay, what are my choices here? What direction can I take this? And I really feel that so many of us, we tell ourselves that we're healed and we're not. Because if you really pay attention to your actions and pay attention to how you speak to people and pay attention to really what triggers you, I don't know if that's really completely healed. I mean, we're all going to have triggers, right? I mean, it happens. I was just telling you the other day, we drove by something and I says, man, this has given me a trigger. However, I can take that trigger two different ways as far as I see it. I can let it consume me again and let it take me to a different area, or I can go, okay, this was a time in my life that this happened right here in this spot or in this area. What did I learn from it? How can I move forward from it?
Absolutely, for sure. And I agree. There is a lot of, I always tell people I'm healing. I'm not healed, so don't get it twisted.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, I've got a lifetime of learned behaviors and a lifetime of experiences that I did not deal with appropriately to unlearn. And I don't mean just like one or two or three experiences, right? I mean, I lived decades upon decades, right? 10, 20, 30 years learning behaviors, responding incorrectly. And so for me to say in my, I don't know, 10 years that I got it all figured out, no, sir. This is a incorrect statement, right? And I'll be learning till the day I die,
Yeah.
and my goal is to just every day I fail at some behavior, right? And I don't mean necessarily like an epic fail, but there's every day that something comes across in my life that I know that I take evaluation on that I could do better. And the next day, the same thing, right? And so it's just a constant process of these learned behaviors, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that because it is definitely a lifetime learning. I mean, you've heard me say many times, and I've said this on the show quite a few times, that again, my version is there is no finish line when it comes to bettering ourselves. And learning is part of that bettering ourselves, right? Learning from our mistakes or learning from things that have happened to us in the past. And and I know both you and I are on the same page with this. Hanging on to things, it doesn't do our life any good at all. And I know I got guy friends and lady friends who have gone through bad relationships, and they tell me that they're healed, that they're good from it. But then when you sit and listen to them and hear them talk, you find out really quickly that they're not, because of it's like my buddy Nick said, Nicholas T. Smith. He's like, people have this list of things that they're looking for, especially if they're looking for a relationship. And they want to be able to check off every single box that's on that list. And that's impossible. I mean, at least how I see it, it's impossible. I don't I feel that there is no such thing as a perfect woman out there, and I feel there is no such thing as a perfect man out there. And we had this conversation with somebody that we met yesterday at the wellness event, the recovery event there at Wheeler Farm yesterday, and we talked about that. It's being able to find somebody where you can grow together and help each other, right? Because I think when we're in a relationship, whether it's a friend or a possible partnership relationship, when you have somebody with you that can help you grow along the way and not take it as they're trying to tell you how to live your life, I think that helps, because it's got to be both sides, right? It can't be just one-sided. It's got to be both sides that are willing to do that. Because you and I do that as friends. There's
Right.
times you've gotten my face and go, "Hey, you might want to think about this in a different way." And I've done the same with you, where it stops us and it gives us that opportunity to evaluate our thoughts and how we're looking at it and go, okay, wait a minute. I am heading down the wrong path. I've got to turn this thing around.
Absolutely, for sure. Relationships are tough,
Yeah.
but they don't have to be. Whether it's and I always talk to people this way, whether it's platonic or intimate. Obviously, the intimate relationships will probably and most likely bring out you and that partner are going to have more moments of closeness where things are going to come up, right? And for me, I guess the perfect relationship would for me would be a person that's willing to work through whatever shit that comes up, right? Because it's super important. And especially if you both have history, right? If you come from backgrounds of less favorable circumstances, then you've gathered some shit along the way. And that commitment level between two people, whether it's friends or partners, to be able to understand that, hey, you got to know that nobody's going to act right all the time, and nobody's going to be at their emotional best all the time, and they're not going to be at their matured best, right? Like sometimes people are going to act like kids and say shit that they're not supposed to say, and and do things that they're not supposed to do. But it's the willingness to accept accountability for, hey, look, this is where I messed up. This is why I was feeling this, and this is why I did what I did. And I recognize that, and I'm willing to do this work to make sure that this doesn't happen again, as long as you're willing to accept my accountability and accept us moving along together.
Yeah. Hey, man, too many of us are so quick at throwing in the towel.
Oh,
Going, oh, the hell with this, the hell with this, man. I'm done, because you know what? This happened to me before, and I'll be damned if I'm going to allow it to happen to me again. However, if
right,
you go back and look, was that communication there?
right,
Because communication is the key, I think, with any type of relationship, whether it's friends, partnership, whether it's work, co-workers, whatever it is. For me, it's very, very important, because how can we learn how to I had this conversation with somebody not too long ago, and I'm like, if you're having an issue all the time, why do you continue to bitch about it? Have you said anything to that individual? No. Well, why haven't you? How do you expect them to change if you do not say something to them? And maybe you may say something and they'll get all defensive and pissed off and go, you know what, screw you. I don't want anything to do with you. Or they're going to be an adult and go, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize you was looking at it this way. Okay, what can I do better? Right? I mean, that's what we're saying here, correct?
Yeah, for sure. And and what we're talking about with communications and problems and issues and emotions, I'm not talking like the vile things that some people do in relationships, right? There's things that take place within relationships or friendships that happen that you cut the ties, right? I'm not talking about being toxic. I'm talking about working through the emotional traumas, the hard things, the times where you don't want to let people in because you're scared of getting hurt and those type of things. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to state that on this so people aren't thinking that, it's okay to be in some toxic relationship where somebody's cheating or physically or emotionally abusive, right? That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Those
absolutely.
are real issues, but those issues are not something that anybody needs to put up with. I'm talking about your more common issues of being able to be vulnerable with people, being able to have room and hold space for somebody to make mistakes without it being an end game, right? Because love starts when the feelings quit. Does that make sense? When
Love
things get
starts
hard,
when the feelings quit. That's interesting.
right?
Yeah.
That's what I really believe that you really start loving somebody when the feelings quit, when you're out of that honeymoon stage and you wake up and you're not feeling being there. You don't want to work. You don't there's gonna be days where you just don't feel your partner. And those are the days where the work begins, right? When you start talking and communicating, okay, what am I missing? Where do I need to meet you? What can I do to make this better? X, Y, and Z. And so that's where the real work begins, where each of you are willing and able to respect each other's truths, speak what needs to be spoken, let the chips lie where they lie, and then develop an action plan going forward from there.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. And thank you for clarifying, even, with what you just said about toxic relationships and things like that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. And we think it's hard when we're with somebody. However, how hard is it when it comes to dealing that with ourselves? Because we actually do deal with it ourselves in that same way.
We do. And it is hard. And, I've recently had a great experience with a lot of what we're talking about.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, it's super eye opening for what I want in a partner, right? I definitely need somebody who's willing to work because I am. Do you know what I mean? Within the ethical boundaries of things that are taking place between us, I'm willing to understand that nobody's perfect because I'm able to look at myself and understand that I'm far from perfect and I'm far from healed. I'm just healing,
Hmm.
right? But I'm blessed to be able to be in a space where I realize that the money being a 10, being 5'6", and all the whatever the boxes that people want to make in life, right? Whatever that looks like, right? Everybody's got their own Barbie and Ken version of life, right?
Yeah.
You're right. But my Barbie is the girl that's willing to be there, show up, work through things, and grow and inspire one another to grow better, right? And my friendships are the same, and I have the best men in my life, right? And all of them meet that criteria. And nobody in my life, I don't have a single person in my life today that does not meet that criteria.
Yeah. And there's still really, even with all that and as many friends and people that we know that's out there, there's still a handful really that is allowed inside my bubble, right? Where it gets really, really close, where I could sit down and talk to them about anything. There's still others out there that I can talk to. However, I don't go into the depth as much as I do for those that are actually inside my bubble.
And that makes sense because you know the people inside your bubble are a safe space that you can trust that would be willing to hear what you have to say, whether they like it or not, they'll respect it and then be able to, whatever the situation is, develop a plan going forward in that situation to either help you or help the situation.
Hmm.
And not everybody's willing to do that. And not everybody's a safe place for that. And so that's why, one of the best sayings that our buddy Alan says is, I've got a small table with few chairs, right? And you've got to earn a seat at the table.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes back into like the Lancelot, right? Excalibur. There was just what was there a total of 12 knights? There was just
Yeah,
12 chairs. And it took a lot of honesty, integrity, accountability to earn that seat around that round table.
absolutely, right? And you've got to be able to have those characteristics in place to be able to be in your healing journey, right? And
Hmm?
everybody's capable of getting there, but not everybody lives a life of honesty, integrity, and all of that, right? Like my life was a perfect example of growing up and not learning those behaviors, right? I did not learn what honesty was. I did not learn what integrity was, and I didn't learn what any of that is. I learned what survival mode was. I learned what was how to keep people at arm's length, but just close enough that for whatever reason, if I were serving them or they were serving me, and I learned what it's like to make shallow connections, and I learned what it's like to be dishonest for protection, right? And I learned that at a young age and carried that in through many, many years, right? And so these are what, these learned behaviors are they can be very difficult to get through, right? I'm lucky that I've had a lot of kick-ass traumatic wide opening events that really healed me from like sped me up in my mind saying, fuck, I don't want to deal with this anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Like eventually I just got tired of just having shallow connections, of not being able to be vulnerable with people and not being able to sit there and develop a bond with somebody, right? And even in my last relationship, I learned, right? And it was a hard event, but I did learn that I know what I need for me, but I also know that I'm willing to take accountability, right? And for the first time, I was able to do that, with my ex-girlfriend and let her know, look, man, I messed up. I did this, I did that, this, and this. So at least I know I did my part, right? And so now I know I'm able in my next relationship to continue that new learned behavior of saying,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And I love that you put it that way, Joe, because how many of us, and I know I've been guilty of this in my past, because I was a liar and a manipulator. It's like whatever my feelings it was going on was because of somebody else, right? How easy would it have been for you to go to this person you was with and go, these are my feelings because this is what you did and this is how you made me feel. Instead, you owned up to it and went, okay, wait a minute, I've thought about this. And no one can make me feel any way that they decide they want me to feel. It's my choice, right? It's just their opinion. And you thought about it and you stood up and you took that accountability and said, yeah, it was me. This is where I messed up, or this is how I see that I could have done things a lot better.
Absolutely right. And it's so easy to, have the victim mentality, right? Pass the buck, Uncle Buck. And the very first place now in my life I look when I'm having some shit is me. Right.
Yeah.
Now, but there's a huge fine line between being overly accountable and not having a boundary because people deserve what they deserve, right? People have expectations in life, and whatever that is, each individual requires X, Y, and Z in a friendship or a relationship, in a partnership, business, whatever, just all the way across the board. Two people will have different needs, whatever that looks like, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's time, whether it's trust, whatever, right? And so it's super important to be able to realize, what am I asking this person of? Well, you know what I mean? Like, where is this coming from? Is it because I'm insecure? Am I being unrealistic? Am I being needy because of an insecurity or X, Y, and Z? Like, where is all of this coming from? Right. And then after you've actually sat down and really made a huge difference in between, okay, these are like actual needs and I'm not being unrealistic. That's important to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And it's important to have that person on the other side that is willing to sit and listen and understand where you're coming from. It's that empathy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Without being emotionally charged about it, right?
Yeah.
Because look, you know me more than anybody. You know, we we're very close, man. I can get highly in my emotions, and when my emotions override my brain, nothing gets accomplished, right?
Mhm.
So it's being able to take that time, listen to that person, hold that space, and then process everything that person is saying, whatever that looks like. You know, I mean, I've gotten really good at telling people, I need you to give me a minute. And I don't mean like a literal minute. It might take me a day, it might take me an hour, but I need to show up in the correct way of what you just told me. And if I respond right now, that's not happening.
Yeah. It's great that you brought that up because I just did a post on social media today about patience. Because we have to add that patience in there as well. At least that's my version of it. How many of us are so quick of just having something said to us or wanting something that we're going after in our life, and it's like we want it right now. We react right now. Somebody said something to us that triggered us in a way, we're quick to respond and throw a punch right back and throw blame somewhere else. It's taken me a lot of time. I've been working on this for, gosh, the last couple of years, especially in the past relationship that I came from, and realizing a lot of the things that I did wrong, but also having that patience to stop and think about it a little bit instead of reacting so quickly. Because I've gone back in my life and I have sat on this so much where I'm going, my gosh, things could have turned out so much better. I'm pretty sure of it if I just would have stopped and taken some time to think about this before reacting. Instead, I reacted so damn quickly, which caused more issues, which nothing got resolved. I don't know of any time anything ever got resolved by doing that.
I agree. Reactionary measures are very costly,
Yeah.
very much so. And I've got a long history of proof of what happens when I just react, right? And those measures, that price can be very expensive for sure, right? And sometimes we just got to take what happened in the moment and then just carry it with us to learn, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much to be said, and learning how to communicate, right? There's so many. Not that I'm the best communicator in the world. I'm not saying that, but for me, I think space in life between conflict slows healing. I'm a firm believer of that, right? Like there's got to be a fine line between being able to take the time, like for me, that I need when I need to respond properly to somebody, and what that looks like, right? Because leaving things unresolved between two people just creates more pain.
Yeah, it escalates. It's like just pouring fuel on it on a continuous basis until finally that match is lit and explodes.
Right. Or, you never know what the other person's thinking, how they're feeling, what they're going through at the time. And then by you not appropriately addressing the manner, in a timely manner, whatever that looks like,
Yeah.
you know, you're you never know what's going through the other person's head, right? And it's not up to you to control their emotions, but at the same time to respect that they have them, right?
Yeah. You said earlier about, taking that time, whether it's an hour, whether it's a week, whether it's a month. However, I think with also what you're just saying right now is still having that communication to where you're still relaying that message, going, look, I'm still kind of figuring this thing out, at least letting them know so they're not thinking that whole whatever had happened has been dropped.
Right. Yeah. I mean, nothing happens when nothing happens, brother.
Mhm.
Right? In life, period, if you don't take action to resolve anything, then nothing gets done. Right.
Yeah. And it's just crazy when it comes to this learned behavior and making these choices. And I have people in my life that I care about dearly, that they're just holding on to so many things. And I've heard them say that they're growing, they're changing, but yet they continue to bring that past stuff up. And a lot of people that I've interviewed who's in long-term recovery, that is one of the things that they've really had to work on to get themselves to where they can stay clean and sober, right? Is letting that past and that shame and all that stuff just be washed under the bridge. It's happened. There's nothing we can do to change it, right? It's done. It's over with. And to be able to take that as a learned experience, a learned behavior, and know how to deal with it in a different way the next time it comes up, because it will come up, especially if we haven't learned from it. I mean, my version is God will continue us to put us through the same shit over and over and over till we finally learn the freaking lesson. And then once we do, he gives us another one to work on.
I agree for sure. I really do agree, man. I do. I agree with you, brother, on that so much. I don't know how I want to respond to it right now, but I agree for
Okay.
sure.
Well,
Them
when it comes
lessons,
to it,
the lessons will continue to repeat, brother.
mm-hmm.
That's 100%.
Yep. Yeah. Because I don't know how many times where I've stopped myself. And again, I'm not even taking accountability for myself. And I'm going, I don't understand why I continue to go through this. Why do I continue to go through this? Why do I continue to put my foot? I see a pile of dog shit sitting in front of me and I know not to step in it, but I'm stepping in it just because I just step in it. And then I wonder why I keep stepping in it. It's man, so many times that has gone through my head. And it is, again, that is something else that has taken me some time to understand and realize that once I learn that lesson, it's amazing how quickly that disappears. But then again, there's something in line, there's always something waiting to, I mean, I know a Pez dispenser finally runs out, but it's like a Pez dispenser, right? You eat the one and
Yeah.
then another one lines itself right
Yeah.
back again,
Yeah.
to challenge you, you know. That's how I look at how life is sometimes.
It is. Right. And, you know, from the personal accountability side, I needed to learn the lesson that I learned going through what I just went through. So I know, A, what I need from people in a romantic uh setting, and
Mhm.
also how I need to communicate better, right?
Yeah.
So my next one, I won't this will not be a repeat. And but that doesn't mean there's not going to be challenges, because God forbid, there is, right?
Well, absolutely.
I'm all for it, man. I know this sounds crazy, but you know me well enough to know better that a challenge is great for me.
Hmm.
I thrive when shit comes up. I'm like, cool, let's get through this.
Yeah.
And you said something about people. Now I know what it finally came to me. You see that? I'm proud of myself, bro. Huh? People who say that they're healed, but they're still carrying things from their past relationships with shame and guilt. So I believe one of our first that we ever did, we talked about shame. Shame has no place in the healing process of life. I believe that shame is brought on about outside influences to make you feel shameful because, wherever you are in your journey, no matter where you've been, guilt comes from our self. We feel guilty when we know that we've crossed our moral compass or done something to hurt, harm, or upset somebody, right? Whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
Shame is brought on by people who tell you that you're not allowed to heal. You're not allowed to move on. You don't deserve to be happy because you did X, Y, and fucking Z. Shame is brought on by society. Guilt, I believe, is brought on by our moral compass, our higher power, whatever you want, because our higher power, our moral compass, and even our own self. I don't wake up a single day in my life wanting myself to feel shameful for anything. I believe that society has brought shame in. Guilt and shame is two different things. Guilt's to learn the lesson, shame keeps you stuck.
Yeah. It I have to agree with you 100% on that as well. And it's crazy. And I know our listeners are probably sitting here going, "Oh, these guys agree with everything each other's saying." But again, I think that's where our good friendship comes in because really it's what we've learned in our life. It's our
Right.
experiences that we've gone through to help us get through a lot of this, and yeah, I mean, shame will tear us up. I mean, shame will tear us up. It's to me, it's like a cancer inside of us. It's just going to continue to grow. It's not ever going to leave as long as we allow it to go through. And I'm not saying, look, we're all human, right? Things are going to pop up to trigger us, right? Something's going to happen in our life where all of a sudden that shame's going to smack us right back in the face. It's our subconscious bringing it back up because that's its job, is to protect us. Whether it's real, whether it's happening to us right then and there, it doesn't really know. All it knows is something come up. These are the feelings I'm supposed to feel immediately. But that's where, as we work on those things, that's where we get to understand it a little bit more and we allow it not to take us over like it used to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, that's one way to look at it for sure is how to process those feelings and process them into a lesson instead of a shameful outlook. But I mean, that's why I'm a firm believer in what I say a lot, man, is I tell people to kill the fucking noise around them. And what I mean by that is if you have people in your life that do not promote your healing, that
Mm.
doesn't mean, and what I mean by that is they don't allow you to walk around in life acting like a shithead, but at the same time, when you do, they hold you accountable, they bring you up, you talk through it, and then you move on, and that promotes healing, right?
Yeah.
And I refuse to keep people in my life that are not on the same level or higher. Everybody in my life, I view they're on a higher level than I am when it comes to these things. That way, when I fuck up, I know what's coming, and it's not a. It's okay, bro.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not good.
Well,
And so it's super. It's man, a learned behavior of having people around you because it brings you comfort or validation. And it's taking me a long time to learn not to seek validation from outside sources. So that way I'm able to keep the correct people in my life that promote emotional and mental healing.
yeah. 100%. How many of us as friends or have friends like that to where something happens in our life, we make a decision, a choice, and then we start reaching out to other individuals. And I know I'm guilty of it. I'm not saying I'm innocent because I'm not, to get that validation, right? To go, oh, this is the choice that I made, and you just said it. Like, oh, it's okay, bro. No worries, right? instead of having somebody because they don't want to ruin or they're afraid of ruining that friendship. And so they're going to go with whatever they decide that they want to go with just to help them feel better. Instead of saying, no, you fucked up. I disagree. I mean, you and I have had those conversations, right? There's times I've called you up and talked to you, and you're like, hey, frickin' pull your head out of your ass and think about this a little bit. What's causing you to continue to go back this direction instead of you going, well, and then you've told me this. I support you either way that you want to go. However, this is how I'm seeing it. And the old me, I would have said years ago, I would have said, you know what? Fuck you, Joe. I don't want to hear what you have to say and hang up on you. However, I've made it as far as I have the past 16 years of my life of growth because I've stopped to listen to what people had to say to me and sit in it and go, how are they seeing it? How am I not seeing it the way that they're seeing it? And it's crazy because every time I've done that, I've realized I was the one making the wrong choice. They were the one because they know enough about it, right? They're just not pulling something out of their ass. They know about my life where they were being so honest and truthful with me. Again, that's part of our growth. It helped me grow as an individual because of that. When so many of us, man, just were so quick at hanging up the phone, say F you, get the hell out of my life. I disagree. We get that anger, right? And I think when we get that anger, it's our ego protecting us, going, yeah, I know I'm doing wrong, but I'm going to do what I want to do.
True. Yeah, there's a fine line there too, though, because I'm guilty of the same thing. Even when I'm trying to make decisions that are actually of the better of myself, I will reach out and get other people's opinion. And my goal in life is not to have to do that as often. I'm not saying that that's not a good thing to do, is bounce things off your friends and the people that are close to you. But Adam, Adam, you were just on his show.
Yep.
I was talking to him one time and he said something very powerful to me. He said, you know what, Joe? You need to come to a space where you don't seek outside validation for the choices that you're making because you feel it is the best thing to do for you. And that was very impactful for me at that time when he said it, because even when we're making choices that really matter, that are deep and important, and I analyze the fuck out of those kind of choices
Mm-hmm.
down to the just so analytical. And I'd over analyze it and do 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 it. And then I'm asking people, hey, what about this? 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 It's like, fuck, bro, you thought about this for fucking 2 weeks. You don't think you got it figured out by now? Right? Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
Questioning yourself.
Yeah. And you, Adam, people in my life, that is how they respond to me. Hey, man, you put a lot of fucking thought into this. You need to be comfortable in the choice that you're making. And this is all fairly recent. And that was very eye opening to me. And that's why I'm super grateful for the people that I have in my life, because they'll listen to a certain point and then there's a call to action. And whatever that call to action looks like is, hey, you need to figure this out. And nobody tells me that unless they know that I'm capable of figuring it out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the true growth takes place. And to be able to, I really like that, man. And it's a struggle for me because my boy, all of my decisions in my life, not all of them, but the long history of decisions that I've made on my own. So to be able to trust myself to make a decision that is in the best welfare of my own being is probably one of the hardest learned behaviors that I have to learn still to this day. Because I know I'm capable of fucking myself off at any given moment, at any given time, given any given wrong decision. I am very well versed at that. I am not well versed at being able to trust myself into being able to make the best decision for myself.
Do you feel, Joe, the reason why it's that way for you and a struggle for you because you don't want to make that mistake is because you're trying to work to be where you've mastered it.
It could be, or more that, man, when you fuck things up enough, you get tired of fucking shit up, right? And so, yeah, I don't want to be in that spot, but that's not an appropriate mindset to have. I need to give myself grace and realize that I'm fucking human and that I'm going to make mistakes. I just need to be grateful for the fact that the mistakes that I make today aren't going to cost me my life. They're not going to cost somebody else their life, their freedom. It's not going to cost me my sobriety. And it's not going to derail life how I'm used to derailing it, right?
Yes.
And subconsciously, I've really got to reprogram my brain to trust myself enough to know that how I live my life, the decisions I make, and where I'm going, and what I'm doing, who I'm hanging out with, and things like that. I've built a life today that when I make mistakes, that's fucking okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a good way for all of us to look at it. Because again, we're not going to be perfect at it. There's no freaking way. We're not here to be perfect. We're here to learn from everything that happens in our life, and to be okay with it though, that's the thing, right? And I think too many of us, especially if we've come from a bad relationship or a bad job or whatever it may be, right? We sit and we analyze it so much because again, we don't want to put ourselves in that situation. And it's that fear of falling back into it, whether it might be in a different way. However, if we do find ourselves in that spot going, okay, I took the wrong turn. I'm going to do a U-turn and I'm going to go back to where it started and I'm going to think about it a little bit and I'm going to go a different direction. Because I think too many of us are afraid of falling, making that wrong choice, realize we made that wrong choice, and then it's like we're right back at the starting line again because we're not. However, a lot of us go back to that starting line again. Am I making sense?
Absolutely, for sure. And talking about learned behaviors, a lot of people have made a lot of choices, and the consequences have been very steep, right? And the more wrong choices you make, the steeper the consequences. Subconsciously in your brain, you learn not to trust yourself because you have a consistent pattern of making egregious mistakes with egregious outcomes. And whether you're in drug addiction, whether you are in a broken home, or whether you just lived a fucked up life, most of the time the stories behind there develop a pattern of very big consequences behind your decisions. So as you're growing up and you continue to do that over and over and over and over and over, you learn not to trust yourself. And
Yeah.
that's like one of the hardest things that I deal with today is being able to trust myself to make sure that I'm actually making a decision that is not self-motivated, self-loathing, or selfish. Because I've just learned recently in the years how to be that person. It's all brand new to me, pal. All of it.
Yeah. You said the word selfish. I think we need to be selfish in a way, as long as it's in the right way. Because I was selfish in my past before, right? It's like I got whatever I wanted to get. I didn't care who I had to hurt, who I had to go through, who I had to go around, what I had to do, as long as I got what I wanted to get. That's a selfishness. How also there's also the selfishness too of where we do need to take care of ourselves. We do need to be our number one. But when we do it I don't want to say but, however, when we do it in the correct way, it also admits more love, more kindness, and more caring.
which is a learned behavior.
A learned behavior. Yep.
You've got to learn how to be the correct selfish set a boundary to protect yourself, those type of things, right? And you've got to learn to be able to trust that you're doing that with no ill intentions behind it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm 45 years old, pal. I'm boundaries and shit like that. That's like 6 years new to me, right? Like all of it. All my learned behaviors have been how to run through the world like a fucking bat out of hell, man, and destroying everything, including myself along the way. Whether it was emotionally fueled, mentally fueled, drug fueled, or alcohol fueled, the only thing that I've ever learned how to do is destroy myself, everybody who loved me. And I would never intentionally destroy people who loved me, bro. But as a byproduct of who I was as a person and the learned behaviors, is that person would love the fucking shit out of me and I would only love them to a certain extent, right? Because I
Mhm.
learned that keeping people at arm's length is what needs to be done in life because life is very unstable and X, Y, and Z, multiple foster homes, things like that. Boom, 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 boom. So the learned behavior of being selfish properly is something that, I have learned, but yet it's a heavy burden for me. All of these new behaviors that I've learned, some people might say, it's a gift, and it is, but it's a burden for me. And I don't mean burden in a bad way, but I take other people's feelings and my healing and theirs as a huge fucking responsibility.
Yeah. I can definitely say that's you. I've been around you long enough and we've worked together and we've done a lot of great conversations. And I would have to say you hit that one spot on. And you said you're 45 and this is all new to you. Hey, man, congrats on figuring it out at 45. It took me till I was like in my late 50s to
It takes what it
figure
takes,
it out.
man.
It's like, my hell.
It's, hey, it takes what it takes, man. And
Yeah. Well, again, that was my journey, right? We're all on our own individual journey, and it was my journey and my lived experiences that had to get me on the correct path to get me to that area.
I mean, our journey, yeah, and the journey is always continuing. I'll tell you what, I got more financial receipts for programs that I'm going to sign up for or have than I do clothes, shoes, cars, or anything else in my life today, dude. So I mean, it is a journey, right?
Mhm.
And I have a lot to learn, a lot. And there's a lot of people right now close to us that are offering a lot of good things that I'm working really hard to try to get into, man, because the giants and the smalls, I've learned how to be small. I don't want to be that way anymore.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't think people would really guess that by my personality, by hanging out with me, by talking to me, just around being around me. You would never guess that I am my fucking worst problem. I can't get the fuck out of my own way, dude, and I've got to figure it out, which is a learned behavior.
Yeah. Well, I feel the majority of us are that way, Joe. I mean, we get in our own way, right? And it's because of it's up here, and I mean, this. I work with my coaches weekly. I'm always reaching out to them. I mean, there's something that could come up in my life, and I reach out to them. And what's crazy, it's almost like they can feel when something's going on in my life, because when it does, I end up getting a text from them, or a telephone call, going, "Hey, what's going on? How's your week been?" And then I'm able to open up and go, "Hey, this is how it's going," or this is where my mind's at. It's and to elaborate on that, I mean, when I was going through the stuff I was going through with my foot, I mean, you and I talked every morning. You knew the pain I was going through because you heard it through the phone almost every freaking morning. Mornings seemed to be my worst. And I remember I was talking to my coaches, and this was after a coaching class that we had, and they had me stay on after everyone got off. And my coach Susan says, "So how are you doing?" And I'm doing everything I can, like what you've spoke about. I'm in my own head, and I'm going, man, I'm staying strong, I'm staying positive, this, that, I'm giving myself the fucking pom pom treatment, rah, 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 good for Al, and gonna score a touchdown, and I'm not gonna let anything get to me. And I remember coach goes, "The fuck are you doing?" I went, "Excuse me?" It's like, why are you holding all your emotions back? I mean, it's good that you want to stay positive, but come on now. And even in my training that I took over a year ago, we talked about the beach ball effect. You got one of those big beach balls, even when you're in the swimming pool and you try pushing that sucker down, the further you try pushing it down, the harder it is to hold it before it finally blows. And she brought that up. She goes, "You're doing the beach ball effect. Remember that we talked about it in our training?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And what's crazy is a week before that, I just did a show how important it was to allow our emotions to take their course and go through the course. And here I am being the one that's trying to submerge my damn emotions. And I remember when we got off the phone, she even told me, she goes, "Al, do whatever you need to do to get those emotions out. Punch your mattress, yell, scream, go throw something. I mean, whatever you need to do to get those emotions out." And I tell you what, as soon as I hung up the phone, I broke down, started crying. And I did. I started punching the shit out of my mattress. I was screaming at the top of my lungs because I was in my own head of not wanting to allow any kind of darkness in my life, when really it wasn't the darkness, but I was so afraid of it taking me back to a place that I've worked so hard to get out of, that I didn't want to get back into. But understanding that learned behavior, as we've been talking about, I was able to use that as a tool. I was still able to go and understand those emotions and let those emotions take their course, and then go, "Oh, okay, I fell off the horse. Let's jump back on, and we're going to get going again."
Learned behavior.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yep. A learned
Yes, sir.
behavior.
Every day is a lesson, man. Every moment of every day is a lesson. Whether it's a good or they're all good. It's just, I mean, as long as we look at life in the proper outcome, man, there's not a moment in life that doesn't go by that can't teach us something.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And have the willingness to learn from anyone, right? I mean, how many of us we get that ego to where, let's say somebody that's 20 years, 30 years younger than us give us a piece of advice, and us going as grown men who have gone through a lot in our life go, "Who the hell are you to tell me? You haven't even lived half the life that I've lived." But to be able to listen to what other people are saying, because I tell you what, again, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, if it wasn't for me allowing other people to say what they said to me, even back at that time, my ego was way up here, and I'm like, "Who the hell are you to talk to me this way? You don't know what the hell you're doing." If I would have not figured that out, I'd still be in the same spot I was in, or at least not very far away from it. So I think we could all learn from other individuals as well. I mean, I learned from my grandkids, and they're just, they're 13, 11, and almost 9, and I still learn from them. You know,
Right.
they've actually helped me open up a little bit more and see the little kid back in me, because being able to live with them the last couple months that I've had since losing my leg, my gosh, it's just to be around all that little kid stuff again, and having their friends over and hearing them down there giggling and laughing and just being kids, no care in the world, to where they're allowing life to happen for them, to where we end up becoming adults, and instead of allowing life to happen for us, we feel like life is happening to us, and it's because we try to take control of it.
Yeah. Along the journey, we got to remember how to learn how to be happy again,
Yeah.
for sure. Right. And I know, you know, everybody I'm around all the time, everybody always tells me, dude, you're awfully quiet. Right.
I just
And
told you that. I just told you that yesterday at the event.
I know, and some of it's being present in the moment, and some of it's because I don't know how to be happy, man. I mean, I'm a happy human, and I love my life and everything, but I've really still got to learn, dude. I carry a very quiet persona, man, because it's how I carry the past with me,
Hmm.
right? And I've got to learn how to like be able to go outside, relax, which I've been able to do lately, and be able to just enjoy being present in the moment and what's around me, not just being present in it and just, but being able to like really appreciate where I'm at and what's around me. And I'm always so focused on the next big thing, man, that I forget to where I'm at today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Living in the moment, right? I think it's well, I don't think. I know now it's very important to live in the moment. You know, last night after a busy day yesterday, we get back from Provo, and I go down in my room, and I'm sitting there, and I've got my socket off of my leg, and giving it a breather, and I'm thinking, oh great, I'm sitting here in this freaking room again, feeling like I'm in a dungeon. And my granddaughter comes down and says, Papa, you want to go play cornhole with me? And I'm watching this series called London Gangsters, or Gangsters from London. Pretty good series. And it's crazy because the first thought was, no, I want to watch this series. And then I stopped and went, hey, this is time I got with my grandkid. This is something that I may not have this opportunity to do again because I'm going to be coming back home again. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, well, Papa will have to do it on one leg because I'm not putting my socket back on because I don't think it'll fit because my leg had swelled up from the blood pooling down at the stump. And we went out there, Joe, and I tell you what, even just holding myself up with a crutch, and she carried a chair and set a chair down there for me, sitting out there and playing cornhole with her until it got dark. Being in that moment was so freaking amazing. And then afterwards, she went and grabbed a chair and brought it and sat it right next to mine. And as it's getting darker and darker, we're watching the stars pop out. We're both. She's like, "Papa, there's a new one," and I'm like, "Lila, there's a new one." And then we're watching the satellites go through, go past, and we started looking for UFOs. I'm like, "Let's look for UFOs," and we started looking for UFOs and all kinds of crazy things. And that moment was so special to me. And it was very special to her as well. And when it got dark to where she had to go in, and I went back in, I was in my room and I was thinking, man, the old me, I would have totally have missed all that because my head was off somewhere else. Especially in the days when I was working out at the plant, I was always so focused on what was going to happen the next day at work that I wasn't enjoying the life that I was giving the opportunity to have right at that time. And you just said it. We miss a lot of that, right? Because we are in our own heads, and we're not enjoying where life is at right there at that moment. And I had someone tell me, even with work once a couple of years ago, my buddy Cap, where it's like I don't even want to be here anymore. I'm just, and he goes, yeah, there's times I don't either. However, it makes the day go by a lot quicker if you just go, you know what? This is where I'm at today. I got to accept it and let's move on. And that really opened my eyes when he said that to me. I thought, my gosh, I'm sitting here making my day totally miserable because I keep telling myself, I just don't want to do this anymore. I just don't want to do this anymore. Instead of just going, okay, well, I'm here until something better comes up. This is what I got to go with, and just accept it and allow it to happen. So I'm glad that you brought that up about you working on that and getting out of your own head and just being present at that moment.
Yeah, Roger that, man. It's a work in progress on a daily basis, man. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, gosh, we've gotten to the hour mark. already. It's amazing how quick everything goes. And I know this is a show you and I've been talking about doing for a while, and I'm glad that we got this opportunity to get it out there. I appreciate a lot of your stuff, Joe. I mean, really, you've helped me a lot in my life, and I'm grateful that God has brought you into my life and the lessons I've gotten to learn from you in the areas where I have struggled and where you've been open enough as a good friend, knowing I'm not going to react in an angry way. I'm going to sit and listen to you, what you have to say, because that's how much I respect your opinion and go, okay, whether I agree with you or not, I still respect your opinion. And I just want to say, man, I love you, brother.
I love you, bro. I appreciate it. It's a two-way street, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate everything that you've done. And again, thank you for wanting to sit down and do this show about learned behavior and, that we all have choices, you
We
know,
do.
absolutely. And sometimes we don't make the right choice, and it's okay if we don't. We've said it throughout the show. It's something that we learn from and we move on and we don't hold on to it. My good friend Curtis Marsh talked about in one of his talks that we spend so much of our life picking up rocks and throwing them in the back of our backpack, and then we carry them around the rest of our life. And it's time we start emptying those rocks out of that backpack and instead start filling it full of gold nuggets, because there's a ton of them out there. But so many times, like you even said, we miss them. We miss them because we're too busy picking up the rocks.
Gold nugget for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share before we sign off?
No, sir. That's my hour of wisdom of the day, man.
Now it's time for a nap.
I wish I could, man. I wish
Yeah.
naps were a thing for me in my life, but no, I'm good. I appreciate you very much.
Yeah. Yeah. Naps don't work for me either. However, it's all good. Well, Joe, thank you, brother. I greatly appreciate it. Just want to say, hey, thank you to all our listeners out there too. You guys are the ones that's making this show all possible and continue to happen. So just want to say I love and appreciate all you guys, and wishing you guys an amazing week ahead. And remember this: addiction is giving up everything for one thing, and recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.